Welcome to this brief video where I'm going to show you how to use the Psychometric Portal to do a mini job analysis. First of all, I'd just like to explain why you might want to do this. So when you're using a psychometric assessment of personality, one way that you could use the report is simply just to look at the report and subjectively decide that the profile that you have in front of you of a respondent that's completed a personality assessment matches what you'd be looking for in the job. The problem with that approach is it's not scientific because it relies on our intuition, our gut feel, reading the report and just getting an overview as to whether this person is going to fit. We want to be scientific in our use of psychometric assessments, and science starts out with hypotheses. So given that what you intend to do is to be able to predict performance at work, we really should start off by considering what aspects of performance we want to predict. So that's where competencies and behaviours come in. And so the Psychometric Portal enables us easily to think about this and to consider the relative weightings that we might want to apply to our different competencies and behaviours prior to asking our respondents to complete our assessments. So when you receive a link to this part of the Psychometric Portal, you'll arrive at a page that looks something like this. You'll click on Start Assessments, and then you'll be asked to set up your account and to enter some details for your account. Once you've gone through that process, which will take you probably around about a minute, you'll then arrive on this page where you can see your incomplete assessments. So the assessment that you're being asked to undertake would be the job analysis. So simply click on the arrow here, and that takes you through to the job analysis role title. So let's say you were recruiting for a customer service executive, you might enter customer service in here. You click Save and Continue, and then you will move on to the next page, which is where you're going to start choosing the competencies and behaviours. Now, what we actually need to see if you're doing this for us at PsyAsia is literally that, the competencies and the behaviours that are important in the role. If you were doing this for somebody else, you might have been asked to provide other bits of information, as you see down here, and you might want to consider these in any case. So leadership style, if you know what each of these things means. If you don't, you can mouse over it and you'll find a description. So all the way down to team styles, sales style, and so on. Now let's just go back up to the top. As I said, I'm going to focus on competency and behavior. Now all you need to do is look at each one of these. Again, you can simply mouse over to get a description and then decide if that is actually important for the role. Now, because we're doing this scientifically, what we need to know is that we can't have everything. We know that that's true in the real world as well. So if I said that every single one of these is crucial, then it's very unlikely that I'm going to find a match to the role. So what we need to think about then is, maybe we want to select the most important ones of these. So I might say that in my role, creativity is not that important, entrepreneurial instinct not that important, but decision-making speed is important. They do need to have drive and determination. They might need a little bit of flexibility. Definitely want commercial orientation, so I might say that's crucial. By suggesting it's crucial, it gets an additional weighting of importance. Strategic awareness, not really. Resilience, yes. Analyzing information, no. Planning and organizing, important, and so on. Okay, so I'm just going to stop there, but you would continue all the way down. Now, as you can see on the right side here, we have another task. So at the moment, this area is wide open. And what that signifies to the system is that we're happy to accept any score on decision-making, on the competency of decision-making speed. So in other words, we're happy to accept the slowest and the fastest. If what you're actually looking for is somebody who's very fast, then you need to drag this slider up so that you signify that. But what you must also keep in mind is that these numbers 1 to 10 represent a STEN range, and so there's a certain percentage of individuals that fall under each of these numbers. And what I can tell you is that, for example, if you set this way up here in 10, so if you said decision-making speed is so important, you're only willing to accept those people that score 10 as an ideal match, you are targeting only about 2% of people that would be applying for your role. So in other words, if you assessed 100 people, the likelihood that you would find people who score 10 on this particular competency is only 2%, or 2 in every 100 people that you assess. So you might want to say, okay, it's important, but we will accept people who score between 8 and 10, because in a STEN range, the average area is generally considered to be this area between 4 and 7. So 1, 2, and 3 are the lower scores, 8, 9, and 10 are the higher scores, 1 and 10 are considered to be the extremes. So if I was looking for somebody with average decision-making speed, I would set these sliders at 4 to 7. If I was okay accepting people with slightly below average to slightly above average, then I would set the sliders at 3 to 8, and so on. You may be asking yourself, well, are there occasions when we don't actually want people to be scoring in the very high end? Because sometimes people say to me, well, I'm looking for somebody that's in the average area. So the absolute average, by the way, is 5.5 on a STEN. So I'm looking for somebody that's right in the average area, but would I be happy with somebody who scores right up here in the 10? And what we have to remember is that for every positive, there's typically a negative. So people who make decisions really fast could be very, very helpful, because we don't have to wait around too long for that decision. But as a result, they may be more prone to mistakes. They may not gather the information that we need for them to make that decision. No worries, what we can do is we can look at some of these other competencies. So we can say, does somebody actually analyze information? So we might say, right, we're going to make this important, and we're going to say that we're quite happy to accept people who make decisions fast. In fact, we want somebody who makes fast decisions, but it's also important that they analyze information effectively. So I'm looking for someone that scores high in this area too. And note that whenever you move the slider, you are changing the likelihood of finding somebody. You're increasing it or decreasing it depending upon how wide that slider is. Okay, so that's all you've literally got to do with each of these. So you're just going to set the sliders as necessary. Sometimes it's going to be more important to have somebody that's just Mr. Average. So you may not want somebody that's very, very flexible. You may not want somebody who's inflexible. And so you might say, we're looking for an average level of flexibility. So we'll just go down here. I'm just setting these randomly now, just so that we can complete this task, because I said it would be a quick video. So I've done that, and then I'm going to do the same with behaviors. So I would just select, again, I'm just doing it random, but I would select those which are crucial, those which are important, move the sliders as necessary, selecting those with high scores as being ideal, or those with low scores as being ideal, or those with mid-range scores as being ideal. Okay, so sometimes the sliders are more open. I'm happy to accept almost anything. And sometimes they're very, very narrow. So I only want people with a very high score. Remember, you always have to consider what is the impact of that upon other potential scores in this area. So somebody who is, let's say, very assertive, really very likely to get their point across, to tell people what to do and so on. What is the impact on, let's say, I'm just taking the first one that I saw on supportiveness. If I am very assertive, tell you where I stand on everything, I may be less likely to be supportive, but not necessarily. And so you have the opportunity here to actually reflect your wishes, your desires for the role by saying, yes, we're looking for somebody with fairly high levels of assertiveness, but they also need to be good at supporting other people. So I'm setting those sliders between 7 and 10. So just think that through. And that's the benefit of doing that. This is what makes it much more scientific. We're thinking it through. What do we want? What is the impact upon one desire in one area, how does that impact what we're looking for in another area? Once you've got all of that done, just go down to the bottom. You can click on this, update the match estimate. And as it says here, it gives you an estimate of how well participants will match your role profile. So for the role profile that I've gone for, remember, it was fairly random. The likelihood of finding an exceptional match is very low. It's literally only 0.5%. The likelihood of finding a very strong match is a bit higher, 7.6%. The likelihood of finding a strong match is 38.4%. Okay, so it gives you that information. Click on Save Role Profile, and you're done. And then what will happen next is that if SiteAsia has asked you to complete this, we'll now get in touch with you. We'll discuss your role profile and where you go from here, and we will provide you with your role report. If somebody else has asked you to do this because they already have a psychometric portal system, they will now take it from here. So I hope that video was useful, showing you how to complete this online mini job analysis, and hopefully now you can understand why it's important to be as scientific as possible in our use of psychometrics in the workplace. Thank you for watching.